Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. A few years ago, a study on the Cyprus shipping cluster has shown a total lack of ship financing from banks in Cyprus. Remarkably, a few years later, this situation is entirely reversed. All major Cyprus banks have established shipping and ship financing departments and have stepped up their involvement over the last few years and their relationship with the Cypriot shipping industry. So, we are delighted to have today with us 3 of such banks and their head of the shipping operations. Christos Spanakis, the manager of shipping unit of AstroBank, on my left. Next to him, Milios, head of Milios, head of shipping finance of Eurobank, and last but not least, Spanakis, the new head of ship finance of Hellenic Bank. Our topic, as the chairman said, is the stepping by this bank of their involvement with shipping in Cyprus. And within this topic, I have promised not to ask them about the Poseidon principle. So, the first question is a primer to the discussion, open to all panelists. Gentlemen, could you give us a rundown on the development of your bank following its decision to create a specialist ship financing department? Christos, I start with you, as your bank is the newest entrance in the ship financing scene in Cyprus.
Thank you, Adam. I'll take one step back. In December 2016, we've had an ownership change at AstroBank, from being a 100% Paris Bank subsidiary to our current shareholder base. And the new mandate we got from our shareholders and board of directors was to expand and grow. Now, this expansion we have managed through acquisition under 2 transactions with USB and National Bank of Greece, which is now in its final stages, and also organically. Now, until 2016, we were focused on the local Cypriot market. Since 2016, we've been growing locally at a rate that is, 2 to 3 times our current local market share. But in order to exceed that growth rate, we need to offer a more diverse product offering. The board decided to go into shipping finance in 2018. First thing the bank did was to build know-how internally. So, we brought in shipping finance experts in the field of marine insurance and lawyers. I joined the bank in the summer of 2018. By September 18, we had finalized and approved our credit policy. We had obtained our first credit committee approval for the first transaction that we drew down on in November of 18. Since then, we have been building our portfolio. We now have a fully operational shipping finance unit out of our Nicosia headquarters. We have 2 colleagues in our credit department, which we now call our credit experts in shipping. The transactional banking we do in collaboration with our international banking unit. AstroBank has a tradition in handling shipping transactions for lending and non-lending clients. And before the establishment of our shipping unit, this was done through our IBU. And we're here to stay and grow our business.
Thank you, Christos. Dinos?
Thank you, Adam, and good afternoon to all. For Eurobank as a group, shipping is not a new sector. Our parent bank, Eurobank SSA, has been a traditional ship lender for a long period of time, with a solid know-how and expertise accumulated over the years, and a very successful strategy which has been followed to date. Combining our group's size and expertise with the local strengths of Eurobank Cyprus, which is our liquidity, capital base, wholesale banking orientation, and the high quality of service provided to our clients. We were able over the last few years to build a local portfolio of shipping loans to prime Greek and Cypriot ship owners under prudent terms, while at the same time catering for our clients' operational needs and offering them, of course, the benefits of the synergies created by our bank's presence in 6 countries. Today, we maintain a local shipping loan portfolio, which is considered as reasonable with respect to our size, to our loan book size in Cyprus, while I have to note that our parent group has total ship lending exposures which are significantly larger than the entire Cypriot market. And to complement the lending side, on the operational side, we serve hundreds of accounts, primarily opened in Limassol, for clients active in ship owning, ship management, and other areas of activity within the broader maritime sector. Our strategy has been and will remain focused on building lasting relationships and providing our clients not only with loans, but with an integrated range of products and services tailored to their needs.
Thank you, Dinos. And then?
Thank you, Mr. Montanios. The bank decided to set up its ship finance desk in 2016, a year that the dry market was at its lowest point ever. The reason behind such a decision was to diversify away from Cyprus-only credit risk. We have built a team of shipping experts, not only in commercial, but also in risk, in legal, in transaction banking, as well as in other departments of the bank. Given the counter-cyclical approach that we have adopted so far and the performance of our portfolio, we can say that it was the right choice. Since then, we have financed more than 40 vessels and we have managed to successfully compete with international and Greek banks. And at the same time, we established our own identity in the ship finance industry. We also saw that many foreign banks decided either to leave the ship finance industry or to significantly limit their shipping portfolios. Therefore, there have been many opportunities for us to develop our portfolio, and we strongly believe that there will be more opportunities in the future. Our philosophy is based on quality rather than size. This is a philosophy that also distinguishes the small and medium-sized ship owners, the backbone of the Greek and Cypriot shipping industry, and has made the nation a global powerhouse. We feel very confident about the performance so far because it has convinced our senior management and our shareholders, and most importantly, our regulator, that shipping can be a sustainable and profitable business without taking increased risk. In my opinion, the recipe of success is simple. If we just avoid the mistakes done in the past by other lenders and we remain consistent to our policies and strategy, the future of our business will remain sustainable and without being impacted by market volatility.
Thank you all. Next question to you, Dinos. As we have heard and as we know, traditional bank-lent ship financing is down to its lowest level since the global financial crisis of 2008, as we see an unprecedented expansion towards non-banking finance, especially leasing that we heard. So, Dinos, in such interesting and challenging times, and with the presence of a number of international banks like the ones we had in the previous panel, where do you see Eurobank position in this market, and what will be your bank's approach?
Indeed, Adam, in recent years we've seen a gradual exit from shipping of the leading traditional foreign ship financiers. After they had accumulated approximately 150 billion of distressed shipping debt. This exit, of course, has created a huge gap in the traditional ship lending market. And in conjunction with the fact that the capital markets at present provide limited, if any, opportunities for raising additional capital, a number of owners have been driven towards alternative financing sources. In the same period, however, which is where we are mostly concerned, we have seen many Greek and Cypriot owners increasingly turning to their local lenders, who have, despite their smaller size and capacity, they have traditionally displayed a longer-term commitment to the shipping sector. So, although our capacity can obviously only cover a fraction of the traditional ship lending market gap created, our bank and group as a whole is best positioned to fill in part of the void by continuing to selectively and conservatively lend to well-established owners and to acceptable asset classes.
Thank you, Dinos. Antonis, your bank ship financing department, as you said, has been in operation for a number of years. You did a lot of deals. You had a chance to set certain criteria, preferences among prospective clients. So can you give an insight to our audience on your bank's specific preferences and which sectors actually you rather want to avoid?
I think that the main factors we examine before we do business with the client are traditionally the owner, the asset, and the market. If we don't feel comfortable with all of them, we're not interested in extending a credit facility. Regarding the owner, we prefer companies with a good track record as borrowers as well as operators and have a similar risk appetite for shipping with us. We're here to cater mostly the needs of small and medium-sized owners where there are soft qualitative factors, and these factors usually cannot be easily evaluated by a foreign bank. We're very selective with the counterparties and we draw our comfort from the market knowledge we have of the market in order to evaluate the principles behind in depth and in detail. At the same time, we acknowledge that big companies with bigger fleets and vessels with bigger size enjoy strong relationships with the international banks, but we understand that and these companies usually have a corporate structure, but we understand that this will change in the following years, and we're here also and we're well positioned to serve these companies as well. We like doing business with companies that invest in an asset with specific investment thesis, and they try to limit to the extent possible any market risk. We as a bank are by nature a risk-averse organization, and we also want to limit the market risk we take in our transactions. Regarding the asset, we conduct our own market research and we try to finance assets that are of good quality with good prospects in the market. We avoid the trap of financing assets that are a theoretical bargain because they're cheap. Usually these assets incorporate other risks like poor prospects or limited marketability, and they're illiquid usually. Finally, regarding the market, we prefer following a counter-cyclical approach with a long-term view, and we avoid financing assets when the markets are overheated. We recently saw that the tanker market was at a high level, but this level adjusted to reality quickly. Moreover, we avoid sectors that consider niche with illiquid assets and limited marketability like offshore vessels. All in all, our priorities remain the conventional vessels, including bulk carriers, tankers, chemical products, and crude and container ships, and some LPG carriers. I could also say here that LNG carriers could be in our target because they also incorporate one of the biggest advantages of the transaction, which is a long-term secure cash flow for the transaction. But given the size and the capital required for these investments, I would say that LNG carriers are temporarily not our priority.
Thank you, Antonis. Christos, from your newer and fresher perspective, how do you see the local ship financing market in Cyprus?
We see a two-tier market. Large companies have easy access to capital. Margins are going down for them. Lending terms are getting even more relaxed, and at the same time, small to medium owners have difficulty accessing cheap capital or capital at all. Now, the reason for this is, as we have said earlier, a lot of banks have exited, have been scaling down their portfolios or exited altogether. And there have been cases, when banks decided to exit, that long-term relationships were not honored, awarded, respected, and clients were thrown out of the bank. For example, in 2016, the dry bulk market had its all-time lows, and we've seen a number of banks just forcing clients to refinance. At the same time, the Cypriot economy was recovering from the 2013 crisis, so local banks were in a good place to grasp the opportunity and fill part of the gap, which is what all banks did. At AstroBank we decided to go into shipping 1.5 years ago, and our objective is to offer traditional relationship banking, high quality ship finance services. We approach the market in a counter-cyclical way, and we feel that the current asset value environment is a good opportunity for a lender to grow their portfolio and expand their business.
Thank you, Christos. Andonis, you all seem cautiously confident as regards the present state of ship finance in Cyprus. So, how do you see the future of Hellenic Bank in this shipping and ship financing sector in Cyprus over the next few years?
We are cautious. We have to remain cautious, but at the same time, we're very optimistic about the future of our ship finance desk in Hellenic Bank. As I mentioned earlier, the best way to defend our role is our performance, which is reflected in our portfolio. Taking into consideration that many banks decided to exit ship finance, as most of the panelists mentioned today, I think it's something that everybody agrees that a lot of banks exited the industry. We're in a pleasant position to do selective business, and we're not being driven by short-term budgets or targets, but we're looking at the whole business from a holistic and long-term perspective. Shipping as a specialized unit could bring a very attractive risk-adjusted return on capital for the bank and enhance its profitability. Banks that have built the necessary infrastructure to support the specialized lending and continue to educate their staff can be very optimistic about their future. Especially commercial banks like us, where the focus is not limited on the asset per se or on a private banking relationship, we believe that the business potential is huge since a relationship with the client, and we're very fond of relationship-driven clients, can bring ancillary business to boost our results. All the aforementioned points are significant to maintain the attractiveness of ship finance, but it's of utmost importance to remain prudent and consistent to our strategy and our risk management principles in order to have a bright future ahead.
Thank you. Christos, yourself, continuing on the above tone, do you see ship financing will maintain its attractiveness to Cyprus Bank and especially to your own board in AstroBank?
Well, a number of banks have faced significant losses in the past and have exited the business. Now, I feel, part of the reason this happened is because banks tend to set, ever-increasing growth targets. Now, shipping, as we all know, is cyclical, so one needs to have downsizing targets also when asset values are inflated, for example, and I'm not sure, every bank did that. Now, as a senior lender, I think if you follow the principles of, counter-cyclical lending, moderate advance ratios resulting in sustainable break-evens even in a difficult market, and of course, first and foremost, picking the right owners, the ones that have that operate the ships well, the ones that have performed even in difficult times, then I would expect shipping to remain attractive. AstroBank as a senior lender, I would expect to do well and to keep our shareholders and board happy.
Thank you. Dinos, looking at both the current and future ship financing environment, what do you see as the main challenges and difficulties for you and Eurobank and your prospective clients?
Well, starting from a client's perspective, may I just mention that there is a number of shipping groups which are facing an increasing need to convince the lenders to provide financing, especially those which do not feel certain size and leverage and liquidity criteria. And this is, of course, to a large extent due to the downsizing of the international ship lending market, which we already mentioned a few times. And given that remaining banks, remaining lenders are increasingly selective and cautious. Now, from the bank side, first of all, the withdrawal of international lenders has indeed opened some additional space for smaller regional lenders like the ones present on this panel. Nevertheless, there's no doubt we need to continuously assess the circumstances in order to be able to continue to lend at acceptable pricing to acceptable clients. And by acceptable pricing, I mean pricing which compensates the bank by providing acceptable return on a risk-adjusted basis, after also factoring in the positive effect of ancillary business attracted from clients. And as regards acceptable clients, we always strive to lend to clients with a solid character and track record, who fulfill key criteria such as liquidity, leverage, adequate break-even margins, but also operational expertise, acceptable assets, and full transparency of ownership and operations. Finally, may I mention another challenge which comes in the form of local laws and regulations, which could in the future possibly affect financing transactions. Among others, it's important for the exemptions from stamp duties, which are currently under discussion, to be retained and expanded.
Thank you, Dino, for that pass. As regards stamp duty, yes, you are right that currently it's only exemptions on transactions involving the Cyprus flag vessels mortgaging their vessels. However, there is a bill before Parliament which will, with the help of the Cyprus shipping sector, both the Deputy Minister, the Cyprus Ship Owners Association, the Chambers of Shipping, Cyprus Chambers of Shipping, are pressing the government to totally exempt all shipping transactions from stamp duty, and we hope that by the end of the summer this will become a law. At this point, can I open the panel to questions from the floor before we continue ourselves? Any questions to the panel, Cyprus Shipping, Finance? Theater.
Okay, I'm here. I'm okay. The question to all three panelists, actually. I understand that, and that's not directly ship financing related, but rather transaction banking, which I guess goes hand in hand with your ship financing activities. I understand that the Cypriot banks, all of them, have decided to voluntarily apply US sanction policies as if they were US entities. To me, that's something that is, well, you may call it a business decision, but it is it's not directly within accordance with EU law, which ideally requires companies not to apply US sanctions where they are broader than the EU sanctions. But I think it is also something that should concern us here that do business here in Cyprus, because it restricts our business opportunities unnecessarily. I would like to hear your comment on that.
I'm not a transactional banking expert, so I can only say that, at AstroBank we take sanctions seriously, although we've never had a problem, losing clients because of compliance or such restrictions. We don't want to be more Catholic than the Pope, but we take the matter seriously and we try to follow the rules.
Well, it's a very good question. Thank you for raising it. It's a reality that we're all living on a daily basis. I wouldn't like to say much, but I need to stress that we are all regulated and monitored, not only by our local regulator, but also by our correspondent banks. we need to be fully compliant. You know that Cyprus has gone through a considerable crisis which has pushed the regulatory aspect to the extreme. Unfortunately, there was no option of whether we want to follow it or not. What I can say is that within this reality, we're trying to, as much as possible, to smooth the transaction process for our clients. This may take some time, but in most cases we've seen results in terms of the speed of processing transactions, information requested. If there are repetitive transactions, we can cover all information needed in advance. By knowing our clients, by seeing their transactions and being able to justify all aspects of the transactional flows, I think we're able to make up for this regulatory burden by increasing our efficiency. And over time, I believe we have achieved this.
Thank you.
I understand it was more of a statement rather than a question. It is important to communicate all this within the industry. We're in close cooperation with our clients. We hear all your concerns. It's a concern and understand that, because ship lending is just the start of the relationship, and this relationship breathes from the transaction banking, the payments that come in and out of the bank. So it's good to hear. We can sit together to see all your problems and try to cater your needs accordingly. Each case is special in shipping. There's no repeating client, there's no repeating transaction. So we're here just to hear you and to adjust to the extent possible our services to what you want to have.
Thank you. Okay, I wrap up the panel on a lighter question to anyone or every one of you. From what we heard, your banks are carefully aiming at clients based in Cyprus and Greece with bulk carriers, tankers, perhaps containers. So, do you see your banks eventually looking beyond these two countries of operation or to other types of vessels flying the Cyprus flag? For example, if I was an Italian ship owner with a Cyprus flag car carrier, do I have a chance of getting financed or refinanced by your bank in the foreseeable future? Not today, in the foreseeable future? Anyone?
Well,
No?
you know,
Yes.
our focus, today is clients, from Cyprus and Greece, and in order to go in a transaction, there needs to be a strong Greek or Cypriot element. Now, of course, Greece is a much bigger country, so that makes it a more important market for AstroBank. That being said, however, we feel Cyprus is our local market, and out of the 10 transactions we've done over the last about 1.5 years, we've been active. 4 are with clients from Cyprus. Now, our focus, I believe, for the medium term will remain Greece and Cyprus. The markets together are so big, so we don't need to look outside that. I take your example, in a car carrier flying the Cyprus flag. Now, there the Cypriot element is not strong enough. And a car carrier is a vessel that is not in line with our policy. We like conventional types of ships, bulkers, crude tankers, product tankers, and the likes.
Sure. Dinos, yes or no?
No. Fully agree with Christos. What I would just like to add is that you touched upon 2 issues. One is the owner and the other is the asset. On the owner's side, there are certain key criteria that we would feel comfortable with. First of all, we need to know the owner well. We need to have a clear picture of its track record over a long period of time. And I also have to mention we need to have access to the owner if something goes wrong. So we do feel more comfortable with Greek and Cypriot owners. This is our natural operating space. And in the foreseeable future, I see ourselves limiting to this market, noting that it's a very big market in terms of ship lending size, and we can only cover a very small fraction of it with our capacity.
Thank you, James. Donis, any chance?
Yeah, we're focused on Greece and Cyprus and to the sectors I mentioned earlier for strategic reasons. If we feel that the business opportunities are exhausted, we'll definitely seek out other options. However, I find this not very possible. And we strongly believe in any case that the future of the Greek and Cypriot owners will be prosperous, and as a result the possibility of extending to other sectors as well and countries in the foreseeable future is limited.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm not an Italian ship owner. I don't have a chance of getting any money from you, it seems. So, thank you for your participation and insight. We have heard, ladies and gentlemen, that Cypriot banks, having taken the important and brave, I think, decision to enter into this field of ship financing, are committed to stay. They are stepping up their involvement in shipping through their individual strategies and targets, and are ready to sail through the new challenges in the current financing environment. I'm sure you join me in wishing them every success, all of the banks. Thank you all. Thank you.
Mr. Montanios, I'd like to first of all thank the panel. I'd like to suggest that perhaps in the afternoon session we've had a rather dynamic scenario starting from the Poseidon principles, which was a bit of a colourful venue. We went further on to the conventional international banks, and we go down to the Cypriot banks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go one step further into deep water. I call it deep water because I think the actual definition was talking about the innovative ship finance solutions through alternative finance. Must be fairly, way of thinking or lateral thinking with a view of resolving financial problems to fund or lend to the shipping market. Anyway, thank you for your time and your effort. Thank you very much.